It was so close. That was so close. The moment that Reiko and Yaomei was in that hallway, I'm like, I know exactly where they're at. Please don't go that way. Well, I mean, they were talking about going to Hong Kong, so I knew that eventually that was going to get to that point where they get that line. They get that line, and suddenly we have that realization point. But I was kind of curious how they're going to play it out, and it looks like Gwen to save the day. No, you can't go that way. You cannot go that way. You are not going to exist outside of Kowloon, which is really an interesting thing here. I think overall, with this episode and a little bit of some skipped segments from the manga, I'm really getting a feeling that in the end, what could sort of be the conclusion of the story is one of two things. One is going to be that Kudou finally accepts that Kujirai is gone. I think there really is an element of this entire thing that this reality is created because Kudou wants to be with Kujirai, or he came there looking for Kujirai. One of those two things. Like he found out this place has somehow spawned back, that has been recreated, or at least he was able to see it. He comes there looking for Reiko. But I think there could be also another side of this whole thing. The story can essentially end with the creation of a generic. We finally had the title drop for this entire series, the generic. Kowloon, we've had that for a while. Generic, there it is. And then romance. The romancing of the generic, which is, at this point, Kujirai. But I think there could be an end to this whole story, which is sort of how something from somewhere that only certain people can see, this reality that only certain individuals can see, that this Kowloon is hidden away. Which I really do feel like a lot of this whole idea of Kowloon sort of being not existing could be an element that it is created and hides itself from the public so that it can't be destroyed again. It kind of almost makes me believe that the second Kowloon created because it manifests the same way, but it was destroyed because everybody could see it. Now it can't be seen. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. But I think that could become the ending to the whole story is, yes, again, the creation of an actual generic, the first creation of it, which I kind of was interested to see that this was sort of concluded in this episode from Miyuki's perspective, what exactly Kujirai was. Because I think they sort of imply that everything in this Kowloon is a Zirconian. So you have clones, which are what people create. You have the Zirconians, which is this new idea of, again, what is being created in this new Kowloon. But Kujirai is not one of these Zirconians. And I guess I should have seen that coming because, yes, when Miyuki was talking to Gwen, and Gwen mentioned the fact that she had a mole, which was similar to the other Kujirai, this made him believe, okay, this can't be a clone, but I kind of wonder if it also could tie in with Zirconian as well. He doesn't believe it. And I think a lot of what he doesn't believe her being a Zirconian for is because Zirconians they're duplicates of the original. And Kujirai is not a duplicate. She's not wanting to be the other Kujirai. I think what he's branding as a generic is somebody that doesn't want to be the other. You are different. You can't be a Zirconian because you don't want to be Kujirai. And every Zirconian acts and wants to be the original. And what it's going to end up coming to, and I think this is what Miyuki is picking up on, okay, everybody is seemingly, what Kujirai is saying here, everybody is seemingly accepting her to not be Kujirai. The only one that's not accepting her to be Kujirai is Kudou. And I think that could be sort of, again, the final answer. In order for her to become an absolute self, for her to finally not be just a clone, one last person needs to accept her. One person that knows who she is, Kudou. And again, I think that's going to be the trigger in the end. And again, I think that Miyuki's picking up on that. And this is probably what he's going to use to play into his whole revenge story. That in order for him to create what essentially is Kujirai that can leave this place unless he brings his father there, in order to create what he wants to create, he's probably going to have his father accept his new son. So that's going to make everything kind of difficult there. And again, I think that's a lot to do what they are sort of digging into here. Now, we have to address a massive elephant in the room, which is, yes, Kujirai's death. In this episode, we are finally kind of getting into the idea that, yes, she ended her own life. Now, there is a slight little skip segment. I mean, it does imply it based on the document that we see Yulong pull out of the drawer from Dr. Wong's little drawers there of his records from Kowloon. It does imply there, somewhere on that sheet, it does imply insomnia. There is a brief skip segment, and I do kind of preface this. You might want to skip forward into the next timestamp if you don't want to hear this whole thing, because it does seem like a lot of stuff is getting moved around. It's not a massive deal here. But yes, in the little skip segment, we do see where the original Kujirai B was meeting with Wong. So this is before everything went down, before she died. There is a brief segment where she is at Wong's office, and he's prescribing her medicine. And at that time, he's like, you know, you don't need this anymore. You seem much more chippery. You seem like you enjoy your new coworker. It seems to be getting around that, yes, Kujirai B and Kudou are kind of a thing. So what he's implying to her is that you don't need this medicine anymore, which, again, seems to be some sort of medicine for insomnia. Something to get her to go to sleep. She always takes it before she goes to bed. It helps her get to sleep. And so Wong here is basically saying, you have somebody now. I don't think you really need this anymore. And yeah, even later on, it has this brief moment where Kujirai B is walking around with Kudou, and he spots that she has, you know, medicine, or at least a prescription for, you know, insomnia medicine. And he's like, I can give you a good time so you can sleep naturally. She's like, no, I'll just keep taking the medicine. I'm like, Kudou's over here like, I got the best medicine for you. Physical action so you could actually sleep naturally. And she's like, no, that's all right. It's all right. That's where you see that brief scene in the anime where he's going, you know, I wished it was all a prank. That was that brief moment. That shot right there is that last scene where she's like, no, I'm fine. I'll take the medicine. And he says, yes, I wish it was a prank. That all gets me to my conclusion here that I think that, yes, she probably OD'd. I think that's probably going to be the end of it. It's just the big question mark is going to be, how does it lead to that? Because again, Kudou blames himself. And again, Kowloon itself is disappearing. My prediction right now, I don't necessarily think it's going to turn into a thing where Kudou himself did something to make her upset, and thus she took the pills, OD'd on it. Because what it's implying with Dr. Wong in that scene is that she's getting a refill before she normally does. She's getting a lot of these pills. She says that she's busy with work. She needs some more pills. You know, she's coming in there early because she's got her schedules all filled up. So she's getting an early prescription. So she's loaded up on these pills. And again, I think what it's going to lead into is one of two things. Yes, it could be that Kudou says something really mean, says, you know, give up on Kowloon. It's going away anyways. Stop messing with Kowloon. Stay with me. Come with me, because she doesn't want to leave. I bet even with the demolishing happening, she's probably going to decide to stay there. Maybe in protest, or maybe just like, well, I'll just be buried with it. She badly does not want to leave Kowloon. Again, she says that I'm here. I don't have a future. I have nothing else. This is her place. She never wants to leave Kowloon. And so it could be an idea that she doesn't want to leave, and he gets angry at her. And then, again, that night, she takes him. Again, it implies that it was midnight. This is the anniversary of her death. It's not that the next day, after midnight strikes, is the day that she dies. It's literally at night. She OD'd. Where I'm sort of leaning more towards is it's going to be sort of the same thing there, but the idea that she, knowing that this is the last summer, that Kowloon's going away, she decides to stay there forever. Takes all the pills that night. Doesn't want to leave it. But again, why would Kudou blame himself? That's the question mark. Why would Kudou blame himself? I don't know. But anyway, that's sort of where I'm going with that. And again, that little skip chapter kind of does sort of imply that. And again, that's a lot to do with the fact that she has insomnia. She has a lot of pills. But we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, getting the episode proper, yes, we did open up with the whole collapse. I'm thankful that it didn't show that Zohei had been in danger there. I think they imply somewhere else that it's nearby there. But yes, additionally, in the manga, it actually specifically says, before he runs off to Gwen, I hate how in the anime, he's literally standing in front of Rebel, and he's like, everybody get back, could be another collapse. And then suddenly Gwen's there, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's go chill with each other over in the hallway here. It's like, it almost feels like he just ditches everybody. Like, oh, whatever, let's go over here and talk. But no, they get a notification that, you know, no victims, nobody's hurt, everybody's accounted for. Then they go over and talk to each other, which I think that little bit right there with that little conversation was pretty neat. And the idea, and this is sort of why I like what they did with what I thought was going to be a skip chapter last episode. Again, that whole scene where Kudou is telling Gwen, I'm going to propose to her. And Gwen was questioning, you know, do you really know her? This is kind of cool to have this move to this episode, because then we get to see that stark contrast there. At the very beginning of the episode, we get to see that scene where he questions that. And then right here, you have Kudou is talking to Gwen, and Gwen's talking about this person that's special to him. Do you really know him? It's a cool little callback there. I mean, it would be the same thing no matter what episode it was in, but either way, it's still cool. But a little additional details here from the manga is that Gwen doesn't want to leave Kudou either. That's interesting. I mean, you get a sense here that Gwen does care for Kudou, but the whole thing here that kind of gives me a little bit extra context here is that it's not just that he's here for Miyuki. He's concerned for Kudou. He cares for Kudou. Kudou, I'm not leaving without Miyuki, and I'm not going to leave here without you. There's like several points throughout this segment where it is emphasizing Gwen does not want to leave Kudou behind. In reverse, Kudou's like, no, I'm not leaving here. This is where I'm going to be. He even told Kujirai, I'm not leaving this place. I'm going to stay here forever. And additionally, Gwen, don't get too caught up. Don't get too swept up in this place, which is kind of interesting because on one end, it is Gwen, being here and trying to do what Miyuki tells him not to get swept up in Kowloon. Even the later parts, don't eat what they say once again, don't eat the food here. Don't eat the food here. And then Miyuki himself passing out. I'm getting too conscious of Kowloon. I think they are implying this idea that people get swept up and it becomes a reality. They don't want to leave. And I think that's what Miyuki is afraid is going to happen to Gwen. Don't get too swept up in this place. It's very, very interesting. But this one, we get a little skip segment with Miyuki. When he first arrived in Kowloon, the first place he was going to, it seems like it's Yulong's. Specifically a place called Remote Maintenance Safe and Sound Corp. And Miyuki, when he arrives at this location, he picks up the phone and calls Yulong. And then he hears the ringing inside of the building. So he goes to open the door, and once the door opens, the place is empty. So this Remote Maintenance Safe and Sound Corp, it's empty. But there was a phone ringing inside of it. When he walks into the room, suddenly the phone call connects. And the person on the other side is basically answering and saying, hello, this is the Remote Maintenance Safe and Sound Corp. Hello, is this a prank call? What it seems to be implying here is this, yes, the first place that Miyuki came to, coming to Kowloon, was this place, which apparently was where, if there was a Yulong here in Kowloon, he was in that building. And again, the phone was ringing in the building, but the building's empty. I don't know why they skipped this, because this brings up massive, massive question marks. Like, what in the world's happening here? It kind of makes me believe there's a glitch happening in the Matrix, so to speak. There's a massive glitch that's happening in this Matrix, and he doesn't really understand how exactly this is working. Which makes me believe that there is a Yulong here, but maybe an additional Kowloon? That's the question mark. Why is this room empty, yet it's not? I don't know. But again, yeah, of course, after that, he decides to go to the Wong clinic. And when he's going towards there, he calls up Yulong and says, yeah, I went to that place. It was empty. And another one of you answered the phone. Doesn't really understand what the hell happened there. Again, my suspicion there is that it could be that there was a Yulong there, but then when Miyuki arrived there, it just deletes because he knows the real Yulong. I don't know if that would necessarily be because, again, Gwen knows the real Kujirai, but meets Kujirai with no problem. It's weird. It's weird. Again, we're gonna create more questions. Maybe that's why they didn't include it in the anime. They're like, no, this is just gonna make people more confused. Let's not include this part. Hopefully, that's not something that's never gets answered because again, that took place before he went to the clinic, and the clinic was in the anime. So I don't know if they're gonna actually cover that whole segment there. But yes, he goes towards the clinic, and again, this is where suddenly he starts having a heat stroke. And he said, I didn't have a problem when I was here with Gwen. Is that I'm becoming too conscious of Kowloon. I think what they're sort of implying here is because Miyuki is passing out right here, it's implying that, yes, because he doesn't have Gwen there to sort of concrete him to the idea that this is not a real Kowloon, he's getting swept up in it. But the more interesting thing is that, yes, when he goes to wake up, he says that he smells something familiar, something very comforting. He's hearing these voices, and it's reminding him of his mother. And he does end up asking them if there is a Sihan here. I think that's probably his mother. Which this all makes me believe that because he smells the smell of this powder and the voices there, it's implying that possibly Sihan is his mother, and his mother may have worked possibly at this burlesque house or possibly another. Either way, it doesn't seem like she's there, which would be very interesting if he does end up finding his mother there, because I think that'll be a very big struggle there. Because again, what they've kind of implied here already, and as we see it again with the whole flashback bar scene with him first meeting Gwen, this was something that possibly he was involved with. The destruction of the second Kowloon was something he was involved with. He says specifically that I took away something special. I broke something today, and so I needed a drink. Which makes me believe that, now it could be that the first Kowloon is when his mother was there, his father destroyed that place, they were all involved with that same thing. When the second Kowloon came there, he was involved with the destruction of that, and thus it's destroying something that he actually wanted. I don't think that was the Kowloon that he was from. I think he was from the first. But anyways, yes, Kujirai shows up. Stupid face. You don't recognize me? Miyuki. Oh my gosh, that was so creepy. I hate how creepy they make Miyuki. I can't stand it. But yeah, it's a very interesting scene with Miyuki meeting with Kujirai, getting it into the idea, again, the Zirconians, that she can't recall the memories, but she doesn't mind it anymore because she realized that she's not that person anymore. She's become her own absolute self. And again, I think this conversation is very important. Yes, one for Kujirai, because it does show how she's trying to be different, even though she falls right back into it later on when she has a chance to leave that damn room and she decides to stay there for Kudou. She's once again not going to give up being Kujirai B. It does show that she does want to be her own self. She wants to walk away from that and accept this absolute self that is not Kujirai B. And yes, that everybody has accepted her for who she is. She has a really good friend, Yome. Yome is so freaking great. She has a great friend that supports her. And yeah, again, interesting that Miyuki is pushing on her that I guess to accept this, absolute self, she needs one more person to accept it, which is Kudou. He sees that. And again, I think that's all going to connect in this idea of acknowledging how Miyuki is going to be able to create this fake son. That it's going to require the father to sort of accept it to make it real. I think anything in here has to be accepted by somebody else to become real. And I think kudos for her, and it would have to be the father for his son. I don't see it being Miyuki. And I think a lot of it has to do with what he said there. Who compares the two of you? Kudou. I think Kudou is the only thing that's really keeping her from becoming real. Her ability to become an absolute own self that is not tied to Kowloon is being hampered by the fact that Kudou always goes, but it's not Kujirai B. But it's not Kujirai B. It's not Kujirai B. He's still connecting to the old person. She won't be able to replace that old person until he accepts it. But yeah, that's when we get the scene with Yulong and Dr. Wong, him looking at the medical information, pointing out to him that, yeah, they have replicas there at this new Kowloon, even of those that are dead. And Yulong questioning him that he knew Reiko at the moment of her death, and him pointing out that, no, she was dead before I got there. Again, I think because she probably OD'd that night, they probably called for a doctor. Wong got there, and she was probably already passed away. Doesn't surprise me, unfortunately. But yes, that's when we have Kujirai telling Yome that she's going to get rid of the room. She's a jerk. I like how happy Yome is. Thank you, finally getting rid of that stupid room. You don't have to take care of that place. You get rid of everything. No, I'm going to leave it there. It's like, I don't have to burden it myself anymore, but I'm going to leave it there. He could decide what he wants to do. I'll let Kudou decide. Again, it's like, girl, just get rid of it. Go away. I mean, I don't mind that. Just move out. I don't care what happens. Just move out. But yes, unfortunately, Kudou shows up that night and makes her want to keep all the stuff again. It annoys me. But again, a very, very impactful scene of him arriving there at night, at midnight, asking, just leave the door open. Just don't open the screen door. This is fine. It was midnight that she passed away. I like what Kujirai says there. But again, that's that struggle. Kujirai is saying, I'm not going anywhere. You're here because you're afraid that I'm going to disappear. I'm not going anywhere. Which on one end, it's heartwarming because he is there because he's afraid of this new Kujirai disappearing. But at the same time, she's accepting there to be Kujirai B again. It's like, I love it. It's a cute scene, but at the same time, it's still frustrating. Still frustrating. And yeah, I'm with Yome when she tells her, I'm not moving. Dang, we're this close. Let us at least change some stuff up. And so that's when they decide to go to Hong Kong. But yes, they go over there. Gwen at the same time is going to get his pizza because he can't eat the food in Kowloon. He's like, oh, I got a great idea. Let me just go ahead and get some delivery. I like the fact that the pizza guy shows up and he's like, oh, I thought it was a prank. Having somebody having me deliver this to a place that's abandoned ruins. I'm sorry, if I was at a pizza place and somebody called, hey, can you bring some pizza to this abandoned ruins? I guess the question mark there could be it's just some people there that are, doing construction, or they're doing some analysis or something like that of the ruins. There could be plenty of reasons, but there's them kind of chilling there at the entrance like it's some kind of place to live. Even Yome's like, yeah, this is our place to live. What are you talking about, ruins? It's like, you crazy lady. Okay, peace out, I'm out of here. You're right, lady, crazy lady. The assumption there was probably just a bunch of homeless people that are kind of taking refuge in the ruins or something like that. But anyways, yes, Kujirai going over to the edge of there, and I was like, no, we can't do this. Because again, everything that I've been suspecting up until now is that Kujirai cannot exist outside of Kowloon. Because she's tied to Kowloon, she's not real. Or she's real, it's just it's in this kind of reality. This alternate, weird distortion of reality that could be real, but it's not real to many people of this world. So thus, the assumption there is that if you go outside of it, you don't exist anymore. Now, it could be an idea that, yes, if she leaves, people won't see her, but she's out there, she's out in the world, but only people that would be able to see Kowloon would be able to see her. But I think it's only really people that are really surrounded this story are people that can actually see it. I don't think a majority of the world can see it. And again, I think that's by design. I think it's designed the way that it won't be seen by other people. But yeah, when she got there, I'm like, no, we still have 6 episodes to go. We can't have her disappear. I like, yeah, Gwen shows up, good boy, stops her from going out there. And again, that whole realization point for her, telling her you can't exist out of here. Kowloon is not seen by many people. Yomei, you don't know about it because, you were secluded. Look it up. She's like, what is this joke of an article talking about this place was demolished 3 years ago? This doesn't make any sense. She doesn't want to accept it. She's like, this girl was getting information off the internet before, but now she's like, nope, don't want to believe it. I believe the whole thing about, zirconians and heavy Numa, but I can't believe it this time. But yeah, very, very kind of interesting realization point for Kujirai, absolutely breaking her. And it's so crazy because we've come to sort of an acknowledgement by Kujirai. I am fake. I am a generic. I'm not Kujirai B. I've become my own self. There's so many episodes of Yomei just drilling it into Reiko's head. You are not Kujirai B. You are your own self. You are fake, but you're beautiful in your own way. This idea of acknowledging who she is, that she is a possible copy, but she's not that. And she's her own self. She's a fake, but a real. And yet right here, it seems like it shatters her. It shatters her. She cannot accept this. It doesn't seem like she wants to accept it. She is just shadowed. Like there's a shadow of her face. This is something that is absolutely wrecking her. So it's kind of curious how that's going to play out going forward. Like how much this is going to affect her. Because I can see that. Like it's already weird enough that she's had to come to terms with the fact that she is basically a copy of somebody else that's dead. And having sort of this feeling like she's drawn to the things that person was. And having almost that identity crisis within herself. But now she has to come to terms with the idea that she is tied to a city. And a city that doesn't exist. I can see that really, really messing with somebody's head. Like if somebody were to come up to you right now, who you watching this, come up to you right now and say, you can't leave this house because you don't actually exist. This house doesn't even exist. Like we have like an identity crisis, like crazy right there. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how this plays out going forward. But good save by Gwen. I kind of sucks to have it leave right there, but this show is well known for having some pretty nasty cliffhangers. So I'll be curious how that kind of affects her. I wonder if she will probably talk to Kudou about that. And I think that might be possibly where a lot of, I guess, admittance from Kudou's perspective that how much he's involved with this Kowloon. Again, my assumption is that he is the core of Kowloon, this new Kowloon, and that's why he doesn't want to leave. And that's why, yes, whenever he gets a little anxiety, it sort of has some sort of distortion to the world itself. I think he could very well be the one to sort of have to tell her at that point what's actually going on. And we might actually finally get some answers. It feels like we've been breadcrumbing this stuff for way too long. But anyways, cool little ending of the episode. I feel bad for Yomei. She's so heartbroken for her girl. I love Yomei's character so much. But we'll see where it goes from here. But that's my thoughts on episode 7 of Kowloon Generic Romance. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content and want to support more, I've links in the description below. Greatly appreciate it. Until next time, take care.